Yeah, good evening. We would be continuing our discussion on verbs. Today we will stretch it further to cover active and passive voice. Uh, so, active or passive voice of a verb is actually the relationship between the action of the verb and the participants in the sentence. It might sound a little vague, but you would understand it as we discuss it further. You can see I've given a pictorial description of the relation here. Here, action of the verb and the participants. Now, what are the participants? Participants of a sentence are the subject and object. Those are the participants of a sentence. Now, when do we say that a verb is in active voice? We say so when a subject of the sentence, subject of the verb or the sentence, that is the person or the thing, does something. It actually is active, it is doing something in the sentence. For example, Rama helps Hari. Now, which is the subject? Here Rama is the subject, is doing something. What is he doing? He is helping Hari. So here the subject is a doer, is active in this sentence and not dominant, is dormant, is active. Hence he is the doer. Hence this sentence is said to be in active voice. Okay, now what is passive voice? So passive voice is just the opposite. When something is done to the subject. Here subject does not do anything, something is done to it. Take this example. I have written this sentence only in passive voice. Here, Hari is helped by Rama. So here, Hari is not doing anything. Who is doing? Rama is doing. So here, Hari is the subject, but it is not doing anything. It is not the doer. It is the receiver of the action. Hence, the sentence is said to be in passive voice. So you have to remember this three definitions. What is a voice of a verb? What is active voice? And what is passive voice? Okay, now active and passive voice, when we change active and passive voice, various aspects of the verb behave differently. So each tense of the verb have different aspects. Each have 4 aspects, like simple, continuous, perfect, perfect continuous. Now this various aspects of verb behave differently when we change a sentence from active to passive or vice versa. Okay, now basically when we change, what happens in a sentence? There are 3 things which happens. So first, the subject, when we change from active to passive, the subject becomes object and the object becomes the subject. And secondly, the passive voice contains third form of the verb, that is the participle form of the main or the finite verb. Infinite verbs, of course, doesn't change. That is another subject. We will deal with it another day. That is our last discussion on verbs. So, and the third thing that happens, the tense of the sentence does not change. Be very careful. The tense of the sentence does not change. So you have to be careful with that. Think very carefully that you just engrave this in your mind. While changing voice, tense of the sentence does not change. Only the subject and object gets interchanged, and in passive voice, the verb is third form. The verb goes to the third form of the main verb. Okay, so this is more or less the definition of the thing. Now let us get into the practical aspect, otherwise it's difficult to understand. Okay, present tense. How does a sentence in present tense get affected? So let us study the structure first. In active voice, simple present tense, the structure is subject plus V1, that's the base form of the verb, plus S or ES form, plus the object, the simplest form of sentence. What happens when we transfer this, convert this into passive voice? Object plus is or am or are, depending upon the nature of the object, plus V3 plus by plus subject. Okay, so this is, am, are, you know why this is is, am, or are? It is whether it's singular, or it is a plural, or it's third person or first person or second person. Depending on that, is, am, are has been used. So here let us see the first example. He writes a letter. So here you see he writes, write plus S form, a letter. So he is the subject of the sentence, letter is the object, he is doing something, so he is the doer, and the letter is the receiver. So here you can see this is in active voice. Since he is doing something, the subject is doing something, hence this is said to be in active voice. So what happens when we convert this into passive voice? This letter, which was the object, becomes the subject. A letter is, since this is a thing, a letter is written by him. He writes a letter, the letter is written by him. Okay, now one more thing, when you change active voice into passive voice, the change is only possible if the verb is transitive. I hope you remember what is transitive verb from the previous discussion that we had. So please go through the previous video in case you have any confusion. Okay, so simple present tense is clear, I hope. Let us go over to the next aspect of present tense, that is present continuous. Present continuous, something that is going on. Here the structure is, as we know, subject plus is or am or are plus V1. So again the first form of verb plus ing plus object. Passive voice would be this object will become the subject now. So object plus is or am or are plus this new thing comes into being plus V3 form plus by plus subject. So without much ado, let's go into the example. The structures are a bit confusing, but more you practice them, it will become easier to remember. Please do practice. So example is, say my friend is cooking the food. So here my friend is the subject, is, am, are is the auxiliary, cook plus ing verb, the food is the object. So my friend is doing something, he is the doer, the subject is the doer, so the sentence is in active voice. Let us change it into passive. So the food, which is the object here, becomes the subject in the passive sentence. The food is, the new word that we introduced, being. V3 form of cook is cooked. By my friend, my friend who was the doer has become the object here. Subject in the active sentence becomes object in the passive sentence. Simple. Okay, next we go over to present perfect. Present perfect is something that has just completed, some work that has just been completed, or some work that was completed in the past which has its effect now. So those are the two usages of present perfect tense. Please read the usages carefully. This is in chapter 25 of Wren and Martin book. I repeat. Okay, so the active voice of present perfect tense is The structure is subject plus has or have plus V3 plus object. Now passive voice, same thing. The object becomes a subject, has or have. This new word comes into being, that is been, B-E-E-N, been, plus V3 form of the verb plus by plus object. Okay, so sorry, that's a mistake. This should be the subject. The subject of the first sentence of the active sentence becomes object in the passive sentence, and this object goes here, the subject comes here. It's just crisscross. Let's take the example. She has taken a cup of tea. A cup of tea has been taken by her. Again a mistake, it's her. Okay, she has taken a cup of tea. She plus has or have, since she is third person singular, hence it's has. Taken is V3 form. A cup of tea is the object. So let us make the object the subject of the sentence. Here she is the doer, hence this is an active voice. Now let us bring the cup of tea. It cannot do anything. It is passive, dormant. It cannot do anything. Something is done on it. What has been done? A cup of tea has the new word been taken, V3, by her. Now this is all about present tense, all the aspects of present tense. Now you might wonder, where is the fourth aspect, the present continuous, present perfect continuous? It's missing from here. I have not discussed. That is because none of the perfect continuous tenses have passive voice. None, in the sense not present perfect continuous, neither past perfect continuous nor future perfect continuous have any passive voice, because that being structure is not possible. Again, future continuous do not have any passive form. None of the sentences in future continuous have a passive voice. So that's all for today's lesson. We will discuss past tense and the structures and future tense in the next discussion. Thank you.